What is that I'm hearing? Why, it's the introduction to today's breaking news from VistaPoint's Special Needs Trust Resource Center podcast, Choose Your Path. VistaPoint staff are committed to improving the quality of life for those of any age who are living with a disability, and they serve the community by providing professional trustee service and education about special needs trust. The organization partners with a variety of nonprofit and corporate entities to better the lives of those living with physical, mental, or intellectual disabilities. I'm Bart, your podcast host. Episodes are released twice a month and run about 10 minutes or so. Today's not a typical day. In this episode of Breaking News, I'm pleased to interview Janice Williams, RN, founder of Caregivers Respite and the author of the book titled Caregiving and Understanding Respite. We're pleased to say this is a Special Needs Trust Breaking News podcast. Our normal podcasts on the 1st and the 15th will still take place. Hi, Janice. I'm glad you're here with me today and for being our first celebrity on this breaking news interview. Would you please introduce yourself to our listeners? I'm sure they want to know more about you. For example, I hear you live in Memphis, Tennessee.
Yes, and thank you, Bart, for having me on this broadcast. I've really never heard of myself as a celebrity, but I appreciate it. Yes, I'm a nurse. I've been a nurse for over 20 years, and I do live in Memphis. I'm actually from Memphis. Um, and I've worked in a lot of different areas in nursing, research, care coordinating, bedside nursing, rehab. But I would just tell you the most gratifying thing that I've done in my nursing career is working with family caregivers with Caregivers Respite. My father got ill and he went through a lot of different levels of care. And really, God kind of nudged me to start Caregivers Respite to help family caregivers.
Wow, I had no idea. Hearing your calling and following it takes such faith. And you've been able to work in community nursing, research, care coordinating, rehabilitation, and the hospital in your very interesting career. Now, one thing you mentioned is of particular interest to me. Would you speak more about your role as Director of Caregivers Respite? How did it begin? What does it do? And who does it serve?
I would just say this. I had been a nurse for a long time and I never really heard of the word respite. Then, my father got ill and he went through so many levels of care, as I said before, that it really overwhelmed us as a family and it certainly overwhelmed me. It really took me out of nurse role into caregiver role, which I was not prepared for. And so my father went through different stages and he later passed. He did die. And really, like I said before, the Lord kind of nudged me to start Caregivers Respite to make sure that caregivers are helped and supported, and that they don't go through the same things that we went through. Caregiving can be very overwhelming, and it takes a lot of different skills to be a family caregiver. And so, Caregivers Respite was born. We started with a conference and then other things that support caregivers on their journey. And I would say typically it's a family caregiver that we help. And I always have to put that out there is because when you think of caregiver, you might think of just a paid caregiver, but actually the family caregivers are the ones that fill in the gaps, make sure things happen even when things are not available. And so that's really how we started.
Well, thanks, Janice. I'm sorry about your father's passing, but it led you to help a lot of other people. Sounds like we've got a lot more to learn. Fortunately, anyone can visit your website at caregiversrespite.com. Plus, they can access the resources you have to offer there. So, Janice, with all you've got going on, what would you like to share with our audience today?
Well, The one thing that I want to make sure that I leave with the audience today is that if you are, if you don't get a break as a family caregiver, then you will not be able to make it. And so I often tell family caregivers, we cannot take you out of your caregiving situation. But if you get a break, then you can make it. If you get respite, you can make it. And for those who don't know, respite means a break, it means a period of delay. And specifically, we want your break to be strategic. At Caregivers Respite, we're always encouraging caregivers, yes, to get a break. And that's a fabulous thing. But also get the kind of break that you get rest and you get information. That way, when you go back into your caregiving situation, you're stronger, you're better versed. You can really go back, not fatigued, but ready to continue the superb care that you give to your loved one.
Thanks, Janice. It sounds like you're telling us who you wrote the book for. It's for paid caregivers and especially the family members. Where can they find more information about it?
Well, they can, of course, go on Amazon. The book name is Caregiving and Understanding Respite. Also, they can go on my personal website, which is janice-williams.com, or they can reach out to me through Caregivers Respite, which is www.caregiversrespite.org.
I'm glad you wrote what I can only imagine to be a much needed and informational resource for any caregiver. You're certainly the person to provide insight, learnings, and guidance. Will you tell us once again where caregivers can find and buy your book, Caregiving and Understanding Respite?
Again, they can go on janicewilliams.com or Amazon and just look up Caregiving and Understanding Respite, or they can reach out to me. I personally want to make sure that people get everything they need. So if they personally reach out to me, I can put together even some more resources that will help them on their caregiving journey.
Thank you so much, Janice. I look forward to reading the book and using the resources you've made available to all of us on your website, caregiverrespite.com. I'm glad you're able to be a part of this first breaking news podcast today, and I'm glad each listener took the time to hear the latest breaking news in Special Needs Trust. This concludes today's episode of Choose Your Path, a VistaPoints podcast. Subscribe now to YouTube channel. Stay up to date on the latest episodes, which go live on the 1st and 15th of every month. You can visit the VistaPoints website online at vistapoints.org. You'll find all our episodes there, as well as a blog of each podcast for your reference. This podcast is one way we create awareness and provide education about Special Needs Trust. We best serve you when we receive your questions to answer. We encourage you to ask questions and share your concerns. You can easily do this via Facebook, direct message VistaPoints, that's VistaPoints INC, or look for our Facebook page with the same name, VistaPoints Inc. You can call the VistaPoints office at 888-422-4076. That number again is 888-422-4076. Each of the VistaPoints team is here to answer your questions and assist you in whatever way you can. Enjoy your day with your loved one. Come back for more of Choose Your Path, a VistaPoints podcast. Cheers.